Good evening and a very warm welcome to everybody present here. Head of Geography Department of Monuma Memorial College for Women. Welcome all respected faculties from my college, all faculties of JIS University, all respected faculties from different colleges, and my dear students of our college and also from other colleges present in this virtual platform to initiate today's web talk on the topic remote sensing and GIS, a measure to enhance the productivity of geographical study. Our respected Principal Madam, Dr. Shoma Ghosh, is our chief patron of this web talk, who has encouraged and supported us all through in organizing this dynamic web talk, which will open newer avenues to the students and also to the young geographers in choosing varied career options relating to the interdisciplinary subject geography. So now I would like to invite our Honorable Principal Madam to inaugurate this auspicious virtual program and say a few words to grace this occasion. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Munmun. It's really a pleasure for me to inaugurate a webinar which has been organized under the supervision of Munmun for the first time in this college. So this is a special privilege not only for me but also for all the faculty members of Geography Department of Hiralal Mazumdar Memorial College for Women. And we are going to have joint collaborations in several programs. Hope we'll have lots of joint endeavors, academic endeavors. We'll work together. And the topic, remote sensing, it is really a necessity in these days. As we know that without remote sensing, perhaps the world will come to a standstill. I will not elongate, but with a warm welcome and gratitude to my colleagues as well as the faculties of JIS University, I'd like to inaugurate this program and would like to enjoy this popular talk and hope my students and the students from JIS group will be benefited out of this program. Again, with lots of thanks and gratitude to my beloved colleagues and the faculties of JIS University, I welcome you all in this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for your very inspiring speech, for your constant support and cooperation, and for encouraging us to organize such academic activities all throughout the year. Thank you, ma'am, so much. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Monuma Banerjee, Head of Department of Earth Sciences and Remote Sensing of JIS University, to say a few words relating to this popular vector. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening to one and all. So we have taken up a very serious issue, that is, we have decided to work together. That is, our faculty members and students of Hiralal Majumdar Memorial College for Women and faculty and students of JIS University, we have decided to come together and do a lot of collaboration work so that we can spread education, we can spread and share whatever knowledge we have with the rest of society. But the main thing is, why should we really work to enhance this knowledge bank? The most important of all is that I think I should just start from a little bit beginning. That is, essentially your college, Hiralal Majumdar College, is a geography department there, and we initially had a geology department. So many of us actually have an idea that somewhere maybe geology and geography, they are not related, or they are related in a very thin avenue. Many of us had the impression that whatever is above the crust of the earth is geography, and whatever is below the crust of the earth is geology. And we meet geography and geology, they meet at the crust. But as time passed, the geology has been given the provision of thinking a lot about geography. Without the clouds, without the rainfall, without the season, which is all encompassed in geography, there is nothing can be foretold in geology too. That is the formation of rocks. Why do rocks weather? Why do we get the formation of rocks? Why do rivers flow as they are? So we realize that geology and geography, they are very much related. Again, geology could not be encompassed in a shell. We have to think of the all-encompassing avenues. So this is why in later times, we have seen that instead of geology, we very often refer to it as earth sciences, where we talk not only of any particular rock or soil or weather, but we talk of the whole universe as a whole with all its animate and inanimate objects as well. Okay. The most important is, what is the basic tool for deciphering what is there? So GIS and remote sensing, this is a very, very important tool in deciphering what is there on Earth and beyond. Again, we use GIS and remote sensing. They use a lot of signals and a lot of photographs to do these interpretations. This is exactly what we will hear from our speaker today. From these interpretations, a lot of things can be told. For example, I will give you a very, maybe it's not very important now, but you'll see in the study, say for example, we have gone to a lot of places, we've visited a lot of places, we've seen a lot of vegetation. Okay, so in Bengali there is we call that plant akashmoni. Okay, it's acacia. So wherever we see the plantation of akashmoni or acacia trees, we know what kind of soil it is. Okay, and from that study of that particular soil, what can be told is about the deposits that are there right underground. For example, where we have a lot of acacia trees, we get iron deposits. Where we get a lot of laterite, that means it's all iron-rich soil. So all these interpretations can be very nicely now given to us in a picture form by the very important tool of GIS and remote sensing. So I think with these words, I think I should hand over to the speaker of today. But one thing we should all remember, that whatever we do, whatever direction we take our studies to, basically and most importantly, it is for the benefit of mankind and for the service of the society. So with these words, I hand over to the coordinator, Munmun ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you
Yes.
uh, for your very inspiring message. And I hope this web talk of today will benefit a lot in benefit a lot to the students in selecting their career and clarify many queries relating to choosing their study in the field of remote sensing and GIS. Now, we are all eagerly waiting to hear the lecture to be delivered by our respected speaker, Dr. Ratnadeep Roy. But I think he has still now not joined because he has informed me that he's facing some problems. There is load shedding over his area, so he will be joining us very shortly. So, within a few minutes, he will be joining us. In the meantime, I will request my colleague, Mrs. Devi Bhattacharya, to introduce our speaker today. Our speaker is Dr. Ratnadeep Roy, and I'm inviting my colleague, Mrs. Devi Bhattacharya, to take over the session and introduce our today's speaker.
Thank you, Munmun Madam, for providing me the wonderful opportunity. Good evening, respected teachers and my beloved students. It's our great pleasure to have Dr. Ratnadeep Rai as the speaker of today's web talk. Dr. Rai is currently engaged as an assistant professor in the Department of Earth Science and Remote Sensing in GIS University. He has an experience of more than 15 years in the field of remote sensing. He has the teaching experience at Midnapur College, East Calcutta Girls College, and Vidyasagar University. Dr. Ratnadeep Rai is the author of the books like An Introduction to Photogrammetry, Application of Remote Sensing in Urban Area, Remote Sensing of Wetland Environment, Wetlands Ecology, Ecobiological Uniqueness of a Ramsar Site, East Kolkata Wetlands. Moreover, he has a lot of research work that have been published in different international and national journals and books. Dr. Rai has guided a number of MSc students in different universities for the partial fulfillment of degree of MSc in remote sensing and GIS. And at present, he is guiding 3 research scholars in PhD course under the Department of Earth Science and Remote Sensing in GIS University. In the field of remote sensing and GIS, the main area of his interest is digital image processing, application of remote sensing on urban impervious surface, application of remote sensing on floristic environment, application of remote sensing in archaeological studies. So, my audience, I know that we are very eager to listen Dr. Roy's today's lecture. Therefore, without further loss of time, I am just handing over the microphone to Munmun Madam for continuing the next session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Devi ma'am. So I think Dr. Roy has joined us, and we are all eagerly waiting to hear his lecture. He is a very, very expert in this field of GIS and remote sensing, and I would like to invite him. It's a very cordial welcome from my part and from my entire college. I'm inviting Dr. Roy to deliver his lecture on today's topic, remote sensing and GIS, a measure to enhance the productivity of geographical study. Over to you, Ratnadeep sir. Ratnadeep Rai. Dr. Ratnadeep Rai, requesting you to deliver your lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. And very thanks for giving me a chance to say something or to share my views with you. It is my pleasure, and I just bid my thanks to my colleague, my teacher, my guide, Dr. Atanu Bhattacharya. And in my jobhood, I have learned a lot of things from him. So মানে আমি একটু বলি যে এই রিমোট সেন্সিং ফিল্ডে রিসার্চ করছি, রিসার্চ আর একটু বাড়াচ্ছি, কাজ করছি। মানে আমার কলিগ, আমার সিনিয়র, আমার দাদা অতনুদার কাছ থেকে অনেক কিছু শিখেছি। তো ঠিক আছে, তো taking your permission, I'm just starting my discussion about the today's topic, the remote sensing and GIS, a measure to enhance the productivity of the geography. Okay, আচ্ছা, এখানে হয়তো অনেকেই ইউজি স্টুডেন্ট আছে এবং অনেক এক্সপার্টও আছেন। তো আমি ইউজি স্টুডেন্টের জন্যই বলছি, আমি বাংলা ইংরেজি দুটো মিলিয়ে মিশিয়েই বলবো। Okay, then I'm sharing my
Yes, sir.
screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, as being the student of remote sensing, so I want to say something. That remote sensing is basically my passion. It is not only a subject; it is my passion, and I just want to think everything using that remote sensing. So I think as a student of this subject, it is my duty to do so. Okay, so I'm also the student from geography, and later on my MSc, I have done my degree on remote sensing and GIS, and from that particular time, I was very much I have become the fan of remote sensing, and from that phase, I just want to do everything, every analysis, every identification, every exploration using the remote sensing and GIS technique. And this subject is developing day by day. That is a very rigorous subject. And it is developing day by day, and nobody can capture the every dimension of this subject. But as being the part of the geography in my honors, so I just want to explore the geographical thinking, the geographical perspectives, the socioeconomic perspectives using this remote sensing and GIS. And the students, I just want to say you that the choice of your future career is in your hand, and somebody from you would want to be the part of this remote sensing, or somebody would try to go for your mother subject. But if you would come to our field, our remote sensing field, so I can guarantee you that you can enjoy that particular subject, and you can explore or cultivate the geography much more. So it is the most modern aspect of our study. It is the most modern subject of this recent era. And uh, 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 you can do everything. You can do everything and anything using this kind of subject. Okay. So let us start our discussion. So let us start with the definition of the remote sensing, or with the fact about that remote sensing, though it is known all of you. So it is basically a thing that the solar radiation is coming towards the Earth's surface, and the outgoing long wave solar radiation is received by the sensor, and then our digital data will be converted there, and that type of data will be transmitted to the ground station, and there we can get some kind of the digital image through the digital display. And using those kind of a digital display, we can identify the environment, or we can explore our environment, or we can analyze our environment. That is basically the remote sensing. And here we just do everything without any kind of the physical contact. And here the light is the basic source. light is the main capital for these kind of the science. Okay, nothing else. So remote sensing is basically an art of database collection. It is basically a science of database analysis. It is basically a philosophy of database analysis, or to explore the hidden approaches of the environment. That is basically the remote sensing, and that is basically a magical science. But there is some kind of thing that why do we do this remote sensing, and and why we use this remote sensing for our environmental monitoring or mitigation. We are the geographers, or we are the environmentalists, so then we should go for the field. We should study the field in situ, or we should feel the actual flavor of the field, actual flavor of the environment. So then why should we do remote sensing? Yeah, here is the fact that some part of this earth surface is quite inaccessible. Okay, so to get the information about these kind of inaccessible places, we have to rely over these remote sensing system. Okay, or we have to rely over some kind of the photographs, some kind of the images that may be collected from the aerial photographical archives or satellite imagery archives, and using those kind of the data set, we can get a lot of idea at a glance, and we can get some synoptic view about the environment. So that's why remote sensing is very needed. So here, if we study these kind of the snaps, then we cannot fetch this kind of the information, or even we cannot go to these kind of the places that is very much inaccessible. So how can we get the informations? So for getting the informations, we can use the remote sensing, and then from these kind of the portion, we can easily say that here there is a forest patch, and the forest patch is very dense, and that is at the bank of the river. Okay, but here you can get some kind of the limitations. You can ask me some question. The sir, how can we identify the name of the river, or how can we identify the name of that particular settlement position? Yes, that is obviously, and that is obviously a difficulty. That is obviously a problem. And for this kind of the solution, we can refer the Google Earth, or we can refer the Google My Maps applications or API. So then we can solve every kind of things or every kind of the problems. So here the actual utility of these remote sensing technique. Okay, now there is a conflict like India Pakistan. Somebody is saying that remote sensing is subject, but somebody is saying that remote sensing is a tool, and there is a lot of conflict between them. But I just want to say that remote sensing is subject and it is a tool as well. But in which respects? So for these, we have to identify the philosophy behind these kind of the thinkings. Like here, when remote sensing can be applied to cultivate atmospheric science, environmental science, botany, geology, geography, then we can say that remote sensing is a subject. It has some vast expansion to excavate all these kind of the ideas, to explore all the kinds of the thinking in a tailor-made process. But when thus other subjects like atmospheric science, botany, geology, geography, etc., are using the remote sensing for their own purposes, then we can say that it is a tool. Likewise, using the remote sensing satellite imagery, basically using the hyperspectral remote sensing data, we can identify the disease of the crops. We can identify the health of any vegetation. Then we can say remote sensing is a subject. But a botanist can use the remote sensing for identifying the forest patches, the fragmentation of the forest, the health of the forest. Then we can say that remote sensing is a tool to that particular botanist. So here is the basic concepts behind the subject and tool. So there is nothing to be conflicted. So we should welcome both of these terms, that is subject and that is a tool as well. So now the thing is that using that remote sensing, what can we do? এই রিমোট সেন্সিং এ আমরা করতে পারিটা কি? যদি আমি ইউজি স্টুডেন্টদের জন্য বলি যে দেখ ভাই তোরা এই যে ভূগোল পড়িস, তোরা ভূগোল পড়তে গিয়ে কি করিস? ম্যামেরা ফাইনাল সিট দেন, যেই জায়গাটা আমরাও ভোগ করেছি সত্যি কথা বলতে। কি রকম? টোপোসিট থেকে রিলেটিভ রিলিফ, তার থেকে অ্যাভারেজ স্লোপ, তার থেকে ডাইসেকশন ইন্ডেক্স, there are lots of functions and those kind of practicals are very much tedious, very much laborious. Okay, so using that kind of the remote sensing technique or using different types of the remote sensing apparatus or remote sensing database, we can do those kind of morphometric techniques so easily. Within a single click we can solve all kinds of problems. Again, you are going to the field for getting the cross section of the river in terms of the long profile or the cross profile. Here you have to do lots of identifications, lots of surveying, lots of things there. Or sometimes you have to solve the toposits also for getting this kind of the long profile and the cross profile. But who is the remote sensing student for getting those kind of the thing? Just use the digital elevation model for getting those cross sections, and that cross sections can be done so easily within a single click. Again, if you are going to identify the what is the climatic condition, that's then for this kind of the thing you have to do the climatic charts, the ombothermo diagrams, etc., etc. But what would we do? Who is the remote sensing student? Use the radar data or some kind of Kalpana Chawla satellite data from which we can get the cloud, the positions of the cloud patches, the dynamics of the low pressure belts or the dynamics of the cyclones at a glance, and from that we can predict the actual weather scenario. Okay, so here is the beauty of remote sensing, and here is the applications of remote sensing. And very recently the geographers, those experts are now using those remote sensings for their cultivations. Okay, again, that remote sensing is very important task for the geologists also. The geologists are basically engaged in explorations, in mining, in excavations, in identification of the minerals, etc., etc. But nowadays the geologists are using the microwave imagery, the thermal imagery, the hyperspectral imagery for getting those kinds of the information so easily. They are using the spectral library to identify the field spectra. They are basically collecting the field spectra from the minerals or the rocks, etc. And they are doing a matching with that kind of the existing spectral library from which they can get the idea about the minerals or the rocks or any kind of the geological phenomena. Besides, there are lots of gravity data like GRACE, and using which we can identify the groundwater flow. Okay, and using those GRACE data we can also identify the flow of the glacier also. So here is the huge applicabilities or wide expanded applicability of remote sensing. Again, for urban planning, for rural environmental management, for network management, so for all these kind of the approaches, we can use the geoinformatics, which is basically the remote sensing and GIS. And using those geoinformatics, using those technology, we can clearly identify by sitting at home that which one will be our shortest route, through which way we should go to reach our destination. If there is any kind of the jam or any kind of the puddles, then which would be the alternative routes? So all those can be identifying using these geoinformatics or remote sensing and GIS. So here is the beauty of this subject or of this tool, and that's why this subject has made me fan of it. And I just dreamt over this remote sensing. It is my love, and I am very much passionate about this kind of the thinking and the subject. Besides, there is a new orientation of a subject like data science or machine learning that is also linked with this remote sensing and GIS, by which we can get some kind of a system through which we can solve any kind of the problems very logically and within a single click. Okay. And I just want to point out one thing, that my colleague, Dr. Atanu Bhattacharya, is using that remote sensing technique very vigorously. And he has identified lots of things about the glaciers of Himalayan region. And he has done a lot of research work over the Himalayan region. And basically, he has used the digital elevation models and that microwave remote sensing images. And he has particularly used some kind of the systems which has been generated by his own using that machine learning methodology or the logics. Okay, so here is the beauty of the remote sensing. Using this, we can do a vast work about the vast areas. We can do anything globally, okay, and very easily within a short span of time. So now, very precisely, we can do that using the remote sensing. We just do 6 things chronologically. It is basically a tailor-made process. Likewise, visualization, identification, targeting, detection, analysis, and planning. This is the actual chronology of our study. Okay, and the geographer, the environmental scientist, geologist, botanist, any kind of the expert would follow this kind of the chronology. But in our subject, we can follow this kind of chronology using our remote sensing database. Likewise, here I have some snaps of East Calcutta wetland region. Okay, here is the imagery from which we can visualize the environment actually, and from which we can get some impressions of the water body. You, dear UG students, I think you have done this kind of the image interpretation, which is the part of your 5th semester syllabus. Okay, so from this you can easily identify the patches of the water bodies and the agricultural croplands as well as the vegetations. Okay, from this we can visualize that there is some kind of the dynamicity of this water body. Clear? Here we have got the increase, we have got the concentrated patch, and here that patch has been fragmented. Okay, then after this visualization, we have identified the features within this region. Okay, and after identifying, we have targeted the wetlands or the water bodies. Why? To detect its dynamicity, to detect its changes. And after detecting it, we have analyzed these kind of the changes in terms of disturbance. Okay, and after getting this disturbance, we have planned to identify the causes of this disturbance. So then we have done some kind of the planning and have identified finally the cause and effect chains behind this kind of the disturbance or the dynamics. So it is the chronology of using this remote sensing for any kind of the study. We can use that chronology for the geographical study, or we can use this chronology for any kind of the study. Okay. So here I have planned to share my ideas about the East Calcutta wetland environment. Okay, in terms of its land use, land cover dynamics. Okay, it is basically a geographical discussion, and I think we can clearly discuss about this kind of the remote sensing applications over this geographical over this area, and it is basically a geographical discussion. Okay, so East Calcutta wetland is a very lucrative part of our South Bengal. It is basically the natural filter, and it is basically a biological chamber where every kind of the waste are filterized. Okay, and this Ramsar region is also important for maintaining the water balance of this region. So we have firstly done the land use land cover map of this region. And from this land use land cover map, we can visualize that the urban area has been increased in 2019 from 89. Water body has been decreased, and there is also some kind of the decreasing state for the agricultural lands which have been conquered or which have been encroached by the homestead with plantation for say settlement. Okay, so here we can clearly visualize the changes in land use and land cover elements, the dynamics of the land use and land cover elements, and here we can also conclude that settlement is very much important driver behind the fragmenting of these water bodies as well as the agricultural lands. And if we get these kind of the accounts on this land use land cover area, then we can clearly say that the water body area is decreasing in nature and settlement area is increasing in nature, and agricultural area is also decreasing in nature. But I just want to study these kind of data set so logically, and I just want to identify whether the whether the land use land cover gain and loss is very much sensitive to this kind of the environment or not. And for this, we have calculated the stability index for the each of every land use land cover element. And here we have got the stability of the wetland or the water body is so high over here. Okay, and here we can also get an idea that the water body has been encroached very much by the green space. Okay, means green space has acquired the water body. It is very interesting task, interesting phenomena. Besides, we can again say that green space are also encroached by the urban built-up or the settlement as a whole, and bare land and the bare land are also encroached by the settlement position. But as we are studying the environment of East Calcutta wetland, so here we have been concentrated over the water body, its dynamicity, its loss, its gain, its what to say it's the causes behind the losses, etc. Okay, here it has been seen that the gain of the water body is 11%. Means water body area has been gained from the other land use land cover elements by 11.4%. But 17.1% has been lost, has been encroached by the other land use and land cover elements. And on the basis of these gain and loss, we have calculated the change index, where it is seen that water body change index is the lowest. And that's why we have also get that the stability index of the water body is highest of all. Okay, so the fact is that water body is changing. Water body is changing, but its stability is very much high. That means water body is very important over here. The though human encroachment is very dangerous for this kind of in physical environment, but it has a connection in perspectives of the economy of the human being of that particular region. And the fact is that the aquacultural activity is very prominent within this region. That's why that water body has a major economic importance to that particular people. Okay, that means here the larger water bodies are restricted very much, but the smaller water bodies are encroached for their settlement purposes. And that's why I think we can get some diminishing area of the water body in the 2019 rather than 1989. Okay, so in this way we can detect the actual conditions on temporal basis of any environment. Okay, now it has been seen that at the uh, uh, western portion, at the western portion of the region, there is a lots of loss in the water body areas, and it is an important fact that this western portion has a proximity to the Kolkata, and due to this kind of the expansion of those Kolkata, which is at the proximal position of the western portion, the wetlands or the water bodies have been fragmented and have been captured or conquered by the settlement. Okay, or any kind of the livelihood activities of the human beings within that particular region. That's why here we can get some kind of the loss of the wetlands. And it is seen from this diagram that the maximum portion of the water body has been encroached by the settlement and the vegetation as well. And it is noteworthy that these kind of the green spaces are basically planted. Here plantations are done to restrict the bonding of the water bodies. Okay, so, but the fact is that the water bodies are encroached by the settlement basically. So here on the basis of this kind of the fragmentations or loss or gains, etc., we have calculated some significant zones. Okay, my dear UG students, I think in your statistics syllabus, you have done that standard deviation, that mean, that correlations, etc., etc. And you have also done the T statistics, the Z score, etc. So here, that kind of concepts of statistics have been implemented within this kind of the study. Okay, so now I think you can visualize that how the geographical knowledge can be enhanced by our remote sensing. Okay, so here I have used the fragmentation data for calculating the Z score. And here a zonal statistics has been calculated to get that kind of the data set. Okay, And as per the zonal statistics and the related Z score, we have got that this western position or western portion of this area are the fragmentation hotspot. Means here we can get the fragmentation value having greater than mean plus 2 SD. Okay, so here is the actual implementation of the Z score to identifying the zonal distribution of any kind of phenomena. Okay, so here we have got the hotspot of this kind of the fragmentation, and here we have got the cold spot of this fragmentation, and both of these hotspot and the cold spot have been calculated at 99% confidence level. Okay, so in this way we can zone, we can delineate, we can identify our thirsting areas or the problematic areas from which we can get some kind of the planning. Okay, and on the basis of this kind of the fragmentation as well as the loss and the gain, we have detected the areas having the water body disturbance. Okay, and this portion has the high disturbance and this portion has the low disturbance, and these high and the low disturbance are calculated at 99% confidence interval, and the rest of the areas are basically volatile statistically. It is insignificant. Okay, and here we can get some kind of the outlier. Okay, so that is basically the mapping technique using the remote sensing to explore the geographical the phenomena. And here in this way, we can get the water body disturbance areas where the disturbing elements are basically the settlement, the urbanizations, the expansion of the bare lands, etc. And all of these things can encroach the water body very, very much. Now, for getting some plan or doing some managemental approaches, firstly we have to identify which one is the cause behind these kind of effects or behind this kind of the disturbances. So for this, I have used some statistical modeling approach called DEMATEL. Using that DEMATEL model, we can get the cause and effect chain behind any kind of the happening. And using that DEMATEL statistics or DEMATEL model, we have got that this population density, the distance from the road, distance from the canals, distance from the urban centers, etc. These are the causes. And this wetland conversion or the water body conversion is the effect. And in this way, we can clearly identify the actual affecting factors and the affected factors. And as as we have identified the affecting factors, then we can also manage the affected factors. Okay, and on the basis of that DEMATEL statistics, we have got such kind of the diagram, and from this diagram we can also identify the symbiotic relations between the factors. Okay, and somewhere the relationships are very strong and somewhere the relationships are not so strong. Okay, but on the basis of the symbiotic relations or symbiotic interactions, we can identify the actual affected environment or the affected object. Okay, so in this way we can identify or we can explore or cultivate or analyze any kind of the geographical phenomena. Okay, and here we have got the actual nature of the East Calcutta wetlands in terms of its land use and land cover. Besides, after getting this kind of the land use and land cover dynamicities or the cause and effect chain, we also can identify the ecosystem services. That is another thinking to explore the environmental sustainability. Okay, and using those kind of the ecosystem service analysis, we can identify that what kind of services can be lost due to the encroachment of this water body by the other elements, or how much the services, or how much amount of money can be lost due to this kind of the conversions. So there are lots more ideas for exploring the geographical happenings using this geoinformatics. Okay, and that's all for about that's all about this kind of the discussion. Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you, sir, Dr. Ratnadeep Roy, for your wonderful lecture. Uh, and now, I would request participants of this webinar to put forward their questions in the chat box, or you can ask questions relating to today's lecture to our reverend speaker. For this interactive session, I would hand over the session to Mrs. Devi Bhattacharya. Devi ma'am, please, you may read out the questions one by one, if there are any.
Thank you, Munmun ma'am. But till now, I can't see any question. So I request audience to, if you are having any question, any doubt or any comment, you can feel free to write it in chat box, or you can unmute yourself or directly ask the question to today's speaker.
I think one person has raised the hand. Pallavi. No.
No. Anybody has any question or anything to say? Please feel free. Students, if you have anything to ask, sir, then write it in the chat box or unmute yourself.
Can I ask one question to our speaker, Dr.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Then, if any student wishes to pursue their studies in remote sensing and GIS, means what type of subject combinations they will have? Can they opt for in their honors courses? Means honors they want to do in remote sensing and GIS. Subject combination they keep in their honors curriculum.
Okay, for this remote sensing and GIS, basically any kind of the science degree is very needed. And as per my experience, this subject basically by the geography students. And there are some kind of the students from the mathematics, some geology, physics, etc. So if they are from geography, then it is they must have the they should have the knowledge in the projection or geography, etc. So that for this kind of the curriculum.
Do we have any other questions? Students, please, you can ask, sir. You are doing a wonderful who asked
Dear Rina, I don't know whether you are a student. I don't. Look, for our society, we can have development in terms of the livability. So for both these two things, we have to do some kind of the analytical mapping or analytical decisions. Okay, so if you want to get a good planning kind of the remote sensing and GIS for getting the suitability, or if you want to identify the nature of the source of your region, then you have to do some kind of the management to get some kind of database architecture or the archive kind of, or any kind of the algorithms. So the society. This for mapping the environmental vulnerability, these kind of remote sensing systems is very important. With using which we can identify the vulnerable zones like the potential zones, potential areas, the landslide potential zones, etc.
Here,
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any more question from student, teacher, or any other?
There is one question.
How can we explain? How
That
can we
different.
explain to other people in a simple way? Okay. It is a very interesting thing. It is a very this kind of thing can be faced by every people. Likewise, I just want to something one of my experience. What is your subject, and in which subject you are. Then I have said that remote sensing. Then she had said me that what is this, what kind of thing is this, how can it be done, etc., etc. And for explaining this kind of thing, I have spent a lot of times. Okay, so it is your question is very logical. So how can we explain to others people in simple way? So you can just see that for the better society, we should have some safe environment. And for safe environment, we should identify the vulnerability. And the vulnerability can be identified and mitigated using remote sensing. Okay, number one. Number two, if you are saying about the socioeconomy, then you can say for the better society, socioeconomic conditions should be updated or updated. Okay, and for this kind of thing, we should have some kind of the database and of backlogging. So there, remote sensing is very important. Okay, I think that is the easiest way to say the people.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Post branch has asked a question. কোন ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে জিওএস পড়া যাবে স্যার?
So as I'm from GIS University, so I'll suggest you to come our university and our department, and you can be in a very what to say in logical way. Okay, so you just come to our university department.
Diya Ghosh has also asked idea about how.
Okay, that is very interesting. So nowadays, remote sensing has a wide applicability in the agricultural sector. Okay, and Kharagpur IIT Coral department has generated an the harvesting period, the irrigation scheduling, etc. Okay, by the agricultural cropland type, in terms of monocrop, etc., etc. So there, irrespective of your Weber's theory, what you have done in your UG for use the three seasonal satellite data of monsoon and post monsoon. Okay, using these data, you can easily identify that which one is multi-crop, etc. Simple mathematics. Okay, like the yellowing disease of Oryza sativa means the paddy. So then you can use the hyperspectral remote sensing, from which using the spectral library, or from which you get some kind of the unmixing of the dieback conditions of the crop canopy. Clear? Again, number 3, if you want to have some idea about the crop water content, okay, then you can easily identify that using the regression equation between the software input band and the bivariate spectral plot using this software infrared and near infrared band, then you can have some spectral plot like the trapezoid. And using that kind of the trapezium and the apical portions of the trapezium, clearly identify content within its actual tissues, or whether it has the low water content the type dimension specs of the crops. We want to identify the irrigation scheduling, then you can use the theory of the tasseled cap transform from harvesting. You can easily identify the actual timing of the irrigation. Okay, so in this kind of ways, you can study the cultural perspectives. Okay, though in this kind of the very short span, it is quite impossible to explain the remote sensing's applicability in the agriculture. But in very gist, these are basic ways to identify the agricultural perspectives.
Our colleague Amrita Chaudhuri asked, about the job
Okay.
opportunities in
Okay,
Kolkata
okay,
presently.
okay.
I have also the
No,
same
so,
question.
Madam, very frankly speaking, that in our Kolkata, the scope is very very low. Okay, better to say there are no such very good scope in our Kolkata. There are some kind of companies like Spatia, like CyberSuite, Special Eat, like Opsys System. There are some kind of the companies, but they are hiring basically the diploma students, as they have not to pay much more money as salary to those kind of the diploma student. But so that's why I am suggesting the students who or who are or who are would be in remote sensing, that please don't try in Kolkata. A better opportunity. And if you can go out of West Bengal, to the Pune, the Mumbai, the Delhi, etc., there you you would have a lot of opportunities in the multi. There are numbers of multinationals like TomTom GIS, like Cyberpace, like Synesis, etc. And there, the students can be engaged in terms of the huge amount of the salary. Okay, but the fact is that they are hiring students on the basis of and and recently, in the market, Google Earth Engine, Java API, and Python has a high demand. And if any students have this kind of the knowledge, then I think they will. I think they will be in a good positions in those companies. They have not to think about their futures. Is not to stay in Kolkata for the better job opportunity.
Sir, Rupsha Banerjee has asked a question. Sir, if we have economics in our combination subject, after completing honors, can we go ahead in remote sensing? And Merina
Obviously.
Khatun, yes, sir. And Merina Khatun has also asked related study.
No. Mathematics is not so compulsory in GIS. It is not mandatory. Uh, if they have economics as a pass course subject, then I think they will have the BSc degree in honors, and using that kind of BSc degree, they can be admitted to this remote sensing, or they can pursue for remote sensing. And it is not mandatory to have the mathematics as a compulsory subject in the pass course. Okay. And though mathematics is a part of remote sensing, basically Dr. Atanu Bhattacharya has said, and I have learned from him, that mathematics is the language of remote sensing. But I think the students should be technically sound. So that's why mathematics will not be a problem, a big issue. I think they can pursue with the mathematics in our course curriculum. But the point is, they have to be very strong technically. Once they have the idea about this kind of the technicalities of the remote sensing, they have not to think about their future. They will be in a good positions in the technical world.
Yes, sir. Anushwa Rai has asked a question. Sir, is there any online course on topographical survey sheet and also in GIS?
There are lots of institutions, and there are lots of online organizations who are doing the training on this kind of a thing. But right now, I have no such huge knowledge about that, madam. if they do any search in the Google, then I think they can get some idea. And if I can get any information, then I obviously send you. But right now I cannot say.
Okay. And Amrita Chaudhary has commented that many students are there who have done GIS course from Jadavpur but could not get job here.
Okay.
And they are getting offers from outside West Bengal, but in Kolkata, companies are giving very less salary. So presently, how is the prospect in GIS and remote sensing?
Okay. The prospect is very good. Okay. And basically, what to say, that people are running for this particular subject in a crazy manner. Okay, মানে লোকজন এটা পড়ার জন্য পাগলামো করছে বেসিক্যালি। যদি আমি সায়েন্স কলেজ, বালিগঞ্জ সায়েন্স কলেজ দেখি, then you can get that idea that the students after completing their MSc in geography, they have a lots of interest for MTech in remote sensing. Okay, so but the fact is that if they are searching their job and if they would try to be in Kolkata, then I think they will be frustrated and they will not have any kind of satisfactory job with satisfactory salary. Okay, so that's why I think it is better to go out from this Kolkata, and if they can go for Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, Delhi, then I think they will have some prospective career. Okay, so at the cost of the career, I think there is no such meaning of living in Kolkata. I think so. কলকাতাতে সত্যি কোনো স্কোপ নেই, মানে আগে প্রচুর স্কোপ ছিল, কারণ আমি যখন বিদ্যাসাগর ইউনিভার্সিটিতে পড়াতাম তখন আমাদের ডিপার্টমেন্টের প্রত্যেকটা ছেলে মেয়ে ভালো ভালো চাকরি পেত। কিন্তু কলকাতার এখন অবস্থা যে প্রচুর কোম্পানি গুটিয়ে নিয়ে চলে গেছে, যেমন সল্টলেক সেক্টর 5 প্রচুর ভালো ভালো কোম্পানি ছিল, যেমন লেপটন জিআইএস, আরএসআই, আইবিএম এর একটা জিআইএস উইং ছিল, টিসিএস এর একটা জিআইএস উইং ছিল। এরা সবাই ওদের উইং গুলোকে তুলে নিয়ে হায়দ্রাবাদ বা পুনায় চলে গেছে। তো কলকাতাতে সেরকম নেই, ফলে কি তারা ছেলে মেয়ে চাকরি পাচ্ছে না। কিন্তু দেখা যাচ্ছে যখনই ছেলে মেয়েগুলোই যখন হায়দ্রাবাদ, ব্যাঙ্গালোর, পুনা, দিল্লি চলে যাচ্ছে, তখন তারা ভালো ভালো চাকরি পাচ্ছে। সো এটাই আর কি ফ্যাক্ট আর কি। বাট
আমি একটা কথা জাস্ট বলছি, জিজ্ঞেস করছি, সেটা হচ্ছে যে যেখানে অনেক ডেটা নিয়ে কাজ করতে হয়, সেই ডেটা প্রসেসিং এ তো জিআইএস এর একটা বিশাল রোল আছে।
একদম,
সে যে কোনো ধরনেরই ডেটা হোক না কেন, অতএব ডেটা প্রসেসিং যতগুলো ধরনের যা চাকরি আছে সেখানে সবই জিআইএস রিলেটেড, জিআইএস স্পেশালাইজেশনের বোধহয় কাজে লাগে।
একদমই তাই।
আমার মনে হয় ডক্টর অতনু ভট্টাচার্য কিছু বলবেন।
হ্যাঁ, অতনুদা এটা ইয়ে করতে ভালো আইডিয়া দিতে পারবেন।
হাত তুলেছেন। হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ স্যার বলুন। শোনা যাচ্ছে কি?
হ্যালো,
না শোনা যাচ্ছে না।
So basically we have to differentiate two things. Number one is the PG diploma course. PG diploma course, whether you have to decide whether you want to know the remote sensing or you just want to know the software.
Yeah.
So PG diploma course is basically just how to operate the software. So operating the software is not a big deal, but you have to know the remote sensing, then you can effectively operate the software. So কেউ যাদবপুর থেকে করছে, করার পরে চাকরি পাচ্ছে না মানে এটা না যে রিমোট সেন্সিং এর কোনো প্রসপেক্ট নেই। ওখানে কিন্তু রিমোট সেন্সিং শেখানো হয় না, ওখানে কিন্তু অপারেট করা শেখানো হয় যে কোনো সফটওয়্যার।
একদমই
তো
তাই,
সফটওয়্যারটাকে যদি আপনাকে ভালো করে শিখতে হয়, ইউ হ্যাভ টু নো দ্য ফিজিক্স বিহাইন্ড দ্য রিমোট সেন্সিং।
একদমই
And
তাই।
if you know the physics, then you can operate your software, you can develop your code, you can develop your own code, and you can deal with this. And these are basically the offered remote sensing course, not just to learn the software.
একদমই তাই, একদমই তাই, এটা একদম সত্যি কথা, একদম সত্যি কথা। কারণ
এবং
যাদবপুরে
এই
বেসিক্যালি
মুহূর্তে যে ধরনের সফটওয়্যার রিমোট সেন্সিং এ ইউজ হয়, সেই ধরনের সফটওয়্যারকে আমরা কাস্টমাইজ করে ইউজ করি, বিকজ we have to know the basic physics behind this, so we can write our own code and we can run this code on this particular software.
একদমই তাই। কারণ আমি একটা ছোট্ট উদাহরণ দিই, মুনমুন্দি বা ম্যাডাম, আমি একটা ছোট্ট উদাহরণ দিই। অতনু স্যারের রিসেন্টলি নেচারে একটা পাবলিকেশন হয়েছে। তো অতনুদার প্রচুর এরকম বড় বড় পাবলিকেশন আছে, যে গ্রাফ গুলো ধরুন বার গ্রাফ বা পাই ডায়াগ্রাম বা লাইন ডায়াগ্রাম এটসেট্রা, যেগুলো আমরা খুব নর্মালি অনেক কষ্ট করে খোঁচাখুচি করে এক্সেলে করি বা ভালো আউটপুট পাই না, আবার অন্য সফটওয়্যারে যাই, ইত্যাদি ইত্যাদি করি। অতনু স্যার কি করেন, ছোট্ট একটা কোড লেখেন, ব্যাপারটা কাস্টমাইজ করে দেন, করে নিয়ে ওই কোডে একটা ক্লিকেই গ্রাফগুলো অত্যন্ত ভালো রিজলিউশনে, অত্যন্ত ভালো ইনফরমেটিভ ওয়েতে একদম ঠিকঠাক ভাবে একটা লেআউট তৈরি করে দেয়। মানে দ্যাট ইজ দ্য ওয়ে, দ্যাট ইজ টেকনিক্যালিটি। কারণ কি, Otanu sir has that kind of the logical sense. That's why he has that ability to these things. But in Jadavpur University, these kind of things have not been taught. There, the fact is that only the ArcGIS, the ADAS has been operated, and they have discussed about the processes. And in fact, they have given the students the manuals, okay, and they have said the students to read that manuals one by one and then click over the options, and then the students will get the output. That is the thing behind this. That's why it is very true what Otanu sir has said, that PG diploma and MSc two are very different.
Yes, sir. And anybody want to say anything or any question from? Yes, Triyasha Chakraborty has asked a question. After completion honors GIS and remote sensing, মিলে পড়তে কিরকম খরচ হয়?
খরচ বলতে যেটা আমাদের ইউনিভার্সিটি, আমাদের ডিপার্টমেন্টের খরচ অ্যাপ্রক্সিমেটলি 1,65,000। এইটা আমাদের ডিপার্টমেন্টের বা আমাদের ইউনিভার্সিটির খরচ।
হ্যাঁ, এটা কিসের রত্নদীপ স্যার, এটা কিসের খরচ, মানে পিজি করতে গেলে?
এমএসসির খরচ। এবারে আমি যদি পিজি ডিপ্লোমা করতে যাই যাদবপুর ইউনিভার্সিটিতে, সেখানে খরচ হচ্ছে 1,60,000 টাকা। নতুন কোর্স ফিজ ওদের 1,60,000 টাকা। তো আই থিঙ্ক very economically students should go for MSc in remote sensing for their better future and the better career.
এটা টোটালটা হচ্ছে 4টে সেমিস্টার।
4টে সেমিস্টারের খরচ।
আর আমার একটা কোয়েশ্চেন ছিল যে সাপোজিং আ স্টুডেন্ট ওয়ান্টস টু পারসু পিজি করেই কি কোনো চাকরির স্কোপ আছে, অর মানে পিজি না করে যদি কোনো ডিপ্লোমা কোর্স করে, সার্টিফিকেট কোর্স করে, সেটারও কোনো ভ্যালু কি আছে? দ্যাট আই হ্যাভ আ কোয়েশ্চেন।
এইটা কেস সেনসিটিভ। এখন ধরুন যারা পিজি ডিপ্লোমা করছে তারা হয়তো কাস্টমাইজেশনস গুলো শিখলো খুব ভালো করে, so I think then they will have the opportunity for the good jobs. But সাধারণত পিজি ডিপ্লোমাতে কাস্টমাইজেশনস গুলো শেখানো হয় না, কারণ কোনো পিজি ডিপ্লোমাতেই মানে পাইথন ইউজ করে আরজিআইএস কাস্টমাইজেশন বা গুগল আর্ট ইঞ্জিন ইউজ করে রিসোর্স আইডেন্টিফিকেশন বা রিসোর্স ম্যাপিং এইগুলো শেখানো হয় না, মানে আমি দেখিনি আর কি কোনো সিলেবাসই। ফলে মানে তাদের ক্ষেত্রে স্কোপটাও কমে যাচ্ছে। রাদার দ্যান এমএসসি গুলোতে কি হয়, মানে যেটা আমাদের ডিপার্টমেন্টে হয়, এই ধরনের স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্যাল মডেলিংও শেখানো হচ্ছে, সফটওয়্যার গুলোও শেখানো হচ্ছে, সফটওয়্যারের লজিকও শেখানো হচ্ছে, পাইথনও শেখানো হচ্ছে, আবার গুগল আর্থ ইঞ্জিনও শেখানো হচ্ছে। আবার ওইদিকে আমাদের যে ডিজিটাল ইমেজ প্রসেসিং এর যে কোর সায়েন্সটা, সেখানে অতনু স্যার ম্যাথামেটিক্সও শেখান। ফলে কি এখানে ছেলে মেয়েদের মানে একটা মাল্টিটাস্কিং এবিলিটি আনার জন্য চেষ্টা করা হচ্ছে। ফলে দে উইল হ্যাভ সাম গুড অপরচুনিটি ইন দ্য জব মার্কেট। এই আর কি ব্যাপার।
Yes, sir.
Thank
Um,
you, sir.
Our colleague Monalisa Maiti asked, sir, please tell us which are the main fields or sectors where we can get job opportunities after finishing this courses.
Madam, can you repeat? I cannot get that particular question. Is the sir, please tell us which are the main fields or the sectors where we can get job opportunity after finishing these courses. The basically the jobs are very much available in the corporate sectors, and very recently, if you want to get a good opportunity or the good job profile, then you have to be a good developer. Besides, there are lots of research institutions where you can be involved as fellow or research associate or research assistant, and you can have some scope to give the UPSC examination, like in DRDO. There is a lots of scopes of remote sensing people, and annually there are some kind of examination schedules to recruit the students for in DRDO. And you can also go for the PSC or the Staff Selection Commission, because in 2010 a bill has been passed in assembly that every district has to recruit the GIS expert, at least 2 GIS experts for NRDMS. So and very recently an advertisement has been opened for NACMO, and the expertise have been declared as the GIS GIS developer, mapping expertise in GIS sector, etc., etc. So in both of the government and the private sector, you can avail for the job opportunities. But in case of the corporate sectors, the opportunity is so expanded. Okay, and if you have some knowledge in the development perspectives or the customization perspectives, then you will have the lot of scope. Okay.
Okay, sir. Anushwar, I asked, sir, as you told, there are many institutions are available in which we can take GIS course online, but I would love to know whether those courses will be much beneficial for us or not if we take it online, as practical knowledge is very much needed.
Yeah.
I am in Bangalore right now.
Yeah.
It would be better if you can suggest any better institution.
Okay, madam, basically right now that is not in my mind. So if I can find something better, then I'll send you. I'll give you that particular information. Very sorry, madam, আমার এই মুহূর্তে মনে পড়ছে না ঠিক। মানে ইনস্টিটিউশন তো প্রচুরই আছে, কিন্তু কি বলুন তো, মানে এমন অনেক ইনস্টিটিউশন আছে যেগুলো ফেক, বুঝেছেন তো, মানে যাদের সার্টিফিকেটের কোনো ভ্যালু নেই, বা ধরুন অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট করলো, সেখানে ইনটেক হলো, সেখানে ঠিকঠাক করে শেখানো হচ্ছে না, এই ব্যাপারগুলো থাকে। আমার না ঠিক এই মুহূর্তে মনে পড়ছে না। যদি আমার আমি 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 আজকে একটু খুঁজে নিব, আমি খুঁজে নিয়ে আমি কিছু ভালো ভালো ইনস্টিটিউশনের নাম আমি মুনমুন ম্যাডামকে দিয়ে দেবো, তাহলে আপনি ওনার কাছ থেকে ম্যাডাম পেয়ে যাবেন। মানে কাইন্ডলি আমাকে আজকের দিনটা একটু ক্ষমা করবেন, আমি একটু খুঁজে নিই, আমার এই মুহূর্তে ঠিক মনে পড়ছে না, মানে ইনস্টিটিউশনস গুলো।
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. No issue.
আমি একটা কথা একটু বলি, আমি অঙ্কিতা বলছি। হ্যাঁ, বলছি যে যেগুলো তুমি বললে আর কি, যে জব অপরচুনিটিস যেগুলো অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট বেরিয়েছে NRDMS আর ন্যাটমো এগুলোতে, তো এই অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট গুলো বা এই লিঙ্ক গুলো যদি একটু শেয়ার করো, তো আমরা আমাদের স্টুডেন্টদের সঙ্গে একটু ওটা শেয়ার করতে পারি। অনেক স্টুডেন্ট এরকম বসে আছে পাস করে, তারা মানে চাকরির চেষ্টা করছে, তো ওদের তাহলে আমি একটু শেয়ার করতে পারি।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, একদম একদম, আমি অবশ্যই শেয়ার করব।
হ্যাঁ, এনআরডিএমএস যে লোক নিচ্ছে, রিক্রুটমেন্ট করছে, সেটা আমার জানা ছিল না। আর ন্যাটমোতে আমি জানি প্রজেক্ট হয়, তো মানে এখন কি নিচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ, ন্যাটমোতে রিসেন্টলি একটা বেরিয়েছে স্টাফ সিলেকশন কমিশনের মাধ্যমে। ন্যাটমোতে জেনারেল ক্যাটাগরির জন্য 65খানা ভ্যাকেন্সি আছে।
ও ওয়াও, তাহলে একটু
65খানা স্টাফ সিলেকশন।
যদি হ্যাঁ শেয়ার করো তাহলে
আদার সেক্টর গুলো আছে। আর একটা বলি, যেটা হচ্ছে যে অতনু স্যারের কাছে রিসার্চ ইনস্টিটিউশনের প্রচুর খবর থাকে। কারণ অতনু স্যার মানে মানে নিজেও একটা রিসার্চ গ্রুপের সঙ্গে যুক্ত, ক্লাসফিয়ারিক রিসার্চের সঙ্গে যুক্ত জার্মানির। তো অতনু স্যারের কাছে প্রচুর রিসার্চ ইনস্টিটিউশনের প্রচুর খবর থাকে, এবং রিসার্চ ইনস্টিটিউশন গুলোতে রিসার্চ অ্যাসোসিয়েট বা রিসার্চ অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট হিসাবেও জয়েন করে প্রচুর ভালো ভালো ছেলে মেয়ে। এবং ফলে তাদের কি পরবর্তীকালে ইফ দে উড লাইক টু ডু দ্য পিএইচডি or they would like to continue the research work for lifelong, then the research institution would be the best option. So Otonu sir has lots of information about this kind of the research sectors.
Okay, if possible, sir, if you would share all these things to us, with us, that would be better.
Okay, okay.
So we can give to our students. Yeah, that would be helpful.
অতনু স্যার,
হ্যাঁ,
এই যে অমৃতার একটা ইয়ে ছিল, ওই রিসার্চ সেন্টার গুলোর খবর মানে তোমার কাছে সব থেকে বেশি থাকে। তো
ঠিক আছে, আমার কাছে থাকলে আমি ইয়ে করে দেবো, ফরওয়ার্ড করে দেবো।
অমৃতা, আমি 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 পাঠিয়ে দেবো, ওই লিঙ্কগুলো শেয়ার করে দেবো, কারণ বেরিয়েছে। আর ন্যাটমোতে প্রচুর পোস্ট, বিভিন্ন রকম কার্টোগ্রাফারের পোস্ট বেরিয়েছে, জিআইএস অ্যানালিসিস্টের পোস্ট বেরিয়েছে, জিআইএস এক্সপার্টের পোস্ট বেরিয়েছে, ডেটা সায়েন্সের পোস্ট বেরিয়েছে, প্রচুর পোস্ট বেরিয়েছে।
আমার কিছু স্টুডেন্ট আছে যারা মাস্টার্স করে বসে আছে, তারা অ্যাপ্লাই করতে পারে। ও ফাইন,
আচ্ছা 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 আচ্ছা। আর একটা বলি, ঝাড়খণ্ড স্পেস অ্যাপ্লিকেশন সেন্টারে অনেকগুলো পোস্ট আছে।
আচ্ছা,
ওখানেও আছে অনেকগুলো পোস্ট।
Thank you, sir. Diya Ghosh asked, does computer science have any relation with remote sensing? If yes, then how can computer science be of any help for remote sensing?
Obviously, computer science is linked with remote sensing in an integrated manner. And presently the students from the computer science would be the hero, would be the boss of this kind of the subject, because remote sensing and GIS is remote sensing and GIS have taken the trend of the data science, data bagging, bootstrapping, etc. And artificial intelligence is one of the most important part of this geoinformatics. Okay, so if you have the computer science background, then you can be boss of this domain. And Otonu sir can explain you this thing in a better way rather than me. Otonu sir, একটু ইয়ে করো না, ওকে?
হ্যাঁ, computer science basically we are looking for the computer science student because now there are a lot of data that are available and we are really working. বেসিক্যালি আমরা এখন কাজ করছি যেগুলো, সেগুলো হচ্ছে ক্লাউড বেসড কাজ করছি, কারণ আমাদের কাছে যে ডেটাগুলো এখন অ্যাভেলেবেল আছে, আমরা যদি একটা সে 60 কিলোমিটার বাই 60 কিলোমিটার ডেটা চাই, এখনকার দিনে যদি আমার 50 সেন্টিমিটার রিজলিউশন ডেটা আসে, তো এক একটা ডেটা প্রায় 10 জিবি থেকে 15 জিবি ডেটা থাকে এক একটা ডেটা। তো এগুলো কখনোই সম্ভব হয় না যে আমাদের নিজস্ব সিস্টেমে প্রসেস করা, সেই জন্য আমরা ইন জেনারেলি ওগুলোকে ক্লাউডে প্রসেস করি। তো এই ক্লাউড কম্পিউটিং, ডেটা হিউজ ডেটা হ্যান্ডলিং, এগুলো কিন্তু সবকিছুই কম্পিউটার সায়েন্সের স্টুডেন্টদের হেল্প নিয়েই আমরা করি, বিকজ আই এম নট অলসো ফ্রম দ্য কম্পিউটার সায়েন্স ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড। সো কম্পিউটার সায়েন্স এবং ইলেকট্রনিক্স এর একটা বিশাল বড় ভূমিকা আছে এই রিমোট সেন্সিং এ। তো যে কোনো ধরনের মেশিন লার্নিং, বিভিন্ন অ্যালগোরিদম ডেভেলপমেন্ট, এখানে কম্পিউটার সায়েন্সের একটা বড় ভূমিকা আছে। এবং এখন রিমোট সেন্সিংটা মেনলি ওই দিকে শিফট করছে, মেশিন লার্নিং, এআই, আর্টিফিশিয়াল ইন্টেলিজেন্স এই দিকে শিফট করছে। তো ডেফিনেটলি সবচেয়ে বেশি যদি আমি বলি যে যাদের অপরচুনিটি আছে এই ফিল্ডে, তারা হচ্ছে তাদের কম্পিউটার ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড থাকে।
একদমই একদমই তাই।
ওকে স্যার। মেরিনা খাতুন জিজ্ঞাসা করেছে, আফটার কমপ্লিটিং জিআইএস কোর্স হাউ ক্যান উই গেট আউট অফ হিয়ার and go to other states for jobs? Please tell.
Okay. First of all, if there is any kind of the campusing option, so then it is then it will be very easy to be out of this West Bengal for the national company in the other states. But if there is no such scope of having the what to say, that campusing opportunity, then you have to firstly approach all those companies with your portfolio, like your CV, your expertise, etc. And then you will get a call from them, and then you can go to that states for that company. That is a very simple way. Okay. But after all, expertise is very important. Expertise is very, very, very important.
Yes, sir. Like Rima Islam asked, after we completed PG in Calcutta, then we going to job opportunity out of Calcutta.
Sorry,
I think the question is not very clear. Rima, are you here? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am. ম্যাম আমি বলছিলাম যে যদি আমি পিজি কমপ্লিট করলাম যে ক্যালকাটা ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে, তারপর যখন আমি বাইরে কি কোনো জব অপরচুনিটির জন্য যেতে পারবো?
এখন রিমা এখন ব্যাপারটা কি বলতো, ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে যে মানে তুমি কোন ধরনের সেক্টরের জন্য যেতে চাইছো, বুঝেছো তো? মানে সেটাই এখন প্রশ্ন। যদি রিমোট সেন্সিং জিআইএস সেক্টরের জন্য যেতে চাও, তাহলে you should have the knowledge in remote sensing and GIS. Otherwise, if you have any kind of the plannings, then you have to be prepared for those kind of the purposes. That's it. Okay. মানে আমার মনে হয় তুমি বলতে চাইছো যে আমাদের জিওগ্রাফি এমএসসি তেও তো রিমোট সেন্সিং পড়ানো হয়, কিন্তু রিমা, ফর ইউর কাইন্ড ইনফরমেশন দ্যাট in the MSc in geography you will have only 50 marks in remote sensing, but that is not so sufficient for getting a very good job, you know. And in your MSc, if it is Baligon Science College or the colleges having the PG department under the affiliation of Calcutta University, then I think the syllabus will follow or will carry forward the QGIS technically, okay, and in that and PCI Geomatica technically, and the curriculum what they have enlisted in their syllabus, that is not so sufficient for getting job actually. Okay, so firstly you have to decide about your planning, then you have to prepare for go out of this West Bengal.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Triyasha Dash asked, if we don't have computer science subject, so how can we make progress in remote sensing?
Okay, I think Otanu sir will say it better. Otanu sir, একটু ত্রিয়াশার প্রশ্নটা কম্পিউটার সায়েন্স না থাকলে
তাহলে আমাকে একটুখানি আমার নিজের ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড বলতে হয় আর কি। আমি আমার বিই করেছি মেকানিক্যাল ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং এ, এবং আমার পিএইচডি মাস্টার্স পিএইচডি আমি আইআইটি রুরকি থেকে করেছি আর্থকোয়েক ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং এ, যেখানে আমার রিমোট সেন্সিং একটা সাবজেক্ট ছিল। দেন আমি লাস্ট 12 থেকে 14 বছর বাইরে যে ডিপার্টমেন্টে কাজ করেছি অ্যাজ এ সায়েন্টিস্ট, ডিপার্টমেন্টের নাম হচ্ছে ফিজিক্যাল জিওগ্রাফি। তো যদি আমি মেকানিক্যাল থেকে ফিজিক্যাল জিওগ্রাফিতে গিয়ে কাজ করতে পারি, সুতরাং এটা কখনোই কোনো বাধা হওয়ার কথা না যে আমার কম্পিউটার জানি না বলে আমি রিমোট সেন্সিং এ কিভাবে কি করব। কম্পিউটারের নলেজ যেটুকু লাগে, যে প্রোগ্রামিং বা যেরকম ধরনের নলেজ লাগে, ইউ ক্যান অলওয়েজ লার্ন। লার্নিং ইজ দ্য বেস্ট অপশন। তো যদি তোমার ইচ্ছা থাকে, তুমি ডেফিনেটলি এক্সেল করতে পারো, বাট ইউ হ্যাভ টু ওয়ার্ক হার্ড। আর যদি তোমার মনে হয় যে না, তুমি কম্পিউটার সায়েন্স রিলেটেড কাজ করবে না, সেখানেও অপশন আছে রিমোট সেন্সিং এ, তো তুমি সেরকম ধরনের কাজও করতে পারো। কিন্তু কম্পিউটার সায়েন্সের যে জিনিসগুলো লাগে, সেই জিনিসগুলো রিমোট সেন্সিং এ শেখাটা খুব একটা ডিফিকাল্ট না। সেটা যদি তোমার ইচ্ছা থাকে, ইউ ক্যান অলওয়েজ লার্ন। তো আমি আমি যেরকম এখন পাইথনে কাজ করি, আমি পাইথন কিন্তু আমার কোনো সার্টিফিকেট নেই। তো আই হ্যাভ লার্ন ফ্রম মাইসেলফ। যতটা আমার দরকার হয়েছে ততটা আমি পাইথন জানি, যে জায়গায় দরকার সেই জায়গায় আমি পাইথন ইউজ করি, এবং এক্সটেন্সিভলি আমি পাইথন ইউজ করি। কিন্তু আমি সেটার জন্য কিন্তু আমি কোনো রকম ভাবে কোনো কোর্সও করিনি, বা তার জন্য কিন্তু আমি কোনো রকম ভাবে কোনো সার্টিফিকেট নেই। সেই জন্য আমি কোনো স্টুডেন্টকে পড়াতে পারি না, বিকজ পড়ানোর জন্য যে ফ্লোটা মেনটেন করতে হয়, প্রবাবলি আই ডোন্ট নো দ্য ফ্লো, but I can write a program in Python. Any kind of program I can write. তো তুমিও শিখতে চাইলে, তো এটা কোনো অসুবিধার জায়গা না যে আমি কম্পিউটার জানি না। হ্যাঁ, কম্পিউটার যারা জানে তাদের হয়তো হার্ডওয়্যারে একটুখানি সুবিধা হতে পারে, বাট আই থিঙ্ক ইটস নট এ বিগ ডিল। ইফ ইউ ওয়ান্ট টু লার্ন, ইউ ক্যান লার্ন। আমি জিওগ্রাফি কিছুই জানি না, কিন্তু আমি যাদের সঙ্গে কাজ করি তারা সবাই জিওগ্রাফার। তো সবসময় শেখার জায়গা আছে, ইচ এন্ড এভরি স্টেপ ইউ হ্যাভ টু লার্ন। তো যার থেকে যেটা পাবে সেটাই শেখা। তো আমি এখন জিওগ্রাফি শিখছি, যেহেতু জানি না। আমি কম্পিউটার একটা টাইমে শিখেছি, তোমরাও শিখে যাবে যদি ইচ্ছা থাকে।
একদমই তাই, একদমই তাই। এবং সব থেকে বড় ব্যাপার এই যে আমি নিজে যেমন এই যে প্রোগ্রামিং ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ জানি না। আর প্রথমে ভূগোলের অনার্সের ছাত্র ছিলাম, তারপর রিমোট সেন্সিং এমএসসি করেছি। তখন আমরা প্রচন্ড ক্লাসিক্যাল রিমোট সেন্সিং পড়ে এসেছি, তখন এত কিছু টেকনিক্যাল ইভলিউশন হয়নি, তার জন্য ওগুলো জানতাম না। এখন চাপে পড়েছি, ছেলে মেয়েদের নিয়ে ডিল করতে হবে বা রিসার্চ করাতে হবে, এখন নিজে এখন গুগল আর ইঞ্জিন শিখছি আবার। তো এইটা কিছু না, ইচ্ছে করলে পারা যাবে একদম।
Yes. Priyasha, I hope that you have got your answer. Next question asked by Dia Ghosh. Sir, it will be very helpful for me if you share more information about AI remote sensing, and where and how can we pursue that? Can we pursue that after our graduation? What are the best places for studying this subject?
Okay, so here also Atanu sir will give you the best reply. Because he is using that kind of AI.
AI remote sensing, if you want to know the classical AI remote sensing, I think there is no such institution over here who will give you the idea about only the AI remote sensing. AI is basically artificial intelligence. You have to use the different type of tool in the remote sensing. So in every curriculum where MSc remote sensing and GIS is there, definitely there must be one subject for AI also. And other than that, I think there is no such course is available for AI remote sensing. So AI is basically, you have to use the tool whenever you want. You should know different type of AI, and it should be in the course in everywhere where the MSc remote sensing and GIS is there. And then the application is up to you where you want to apply. So it's completely up to you.
Yes, sir. Next question is from Ishita Manna. স্যার, আমার কম্পিউটার অ্যাপ্লিকেশন ছিল, তো ওটা কি হেল্প করতে পারে এক্ষেত্রে? আই থিঙ্ক স্যার হ্যাজ অলরেডি আনসার্ড ইট। যদি স্যার কিছু বলেন।
অবশ্যই 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 এটা হেল্প করবে, কারণ কম্পিউটার সায়েন্স যে সিলেবাস ক্যারিকুলাম থাকে সেখানে অনেক কিছুই ইনক্লুডেড থাকে, but I think the maximum of those are about the hardware system or the hardware configuration. So I think that will be very helpful for your study. That will be very helpful for your study.
Okay, sir. I can't find any more question. If there is no question anymore, then I want to over this interactive session and want to hand over the microphone to Munmun Madam. Munmun Madam, over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Devi Bhattacharya. Thank you for conducting the interactive session so tactfully. Thank you, madam. So now, I hope most of our queries relating to geography, remote sensing, our choosing career options in remote sensing and GIS have been resolved. Now, in this valedictory session, I would just brief up the main aspects of today's lecture. Lecture with the concept of remote sensing. And he has remote sensing. He said that remote sensing and GIS is developing day by day. It is the most modern aspect of geographical study nowadays. He also defined, rather, he discussed the process how remote sensing is conducted, how remote sensing can be conducted. It is a philosophy of database applications. So it's very important for us to understand why do we incorporate remote sensing in geographical study. He said he answered it by telling that many places are there which are accessible. So it becomes impossible for us to get the data from those places. So remote sensing is a very good process to obtain data of these inaccessible places to get a synoptic view of the environment. There is always a conflict between remote sensing as a subject and remote sensing as a tool. Remote sensing, but he said that remote sensing is very well a subject, a discipline as well as a tool. Remote sensing as a discipline, it helps to explore many concepts in a different approach, and when all other subjects use remote sensing in describing their concept precisely, then remote sensing becomes a tool. Hence, then he discussed what do we do with remote sensing actually in geography. If we use remote sensing in geography, we can solve many complicated studies by a single click of a digital elevation model, or we can study the relief patterns. Thus, remote sensing has its application in every field of geography, starting from geomorphology, in atmospheric and climate studies, in predicting weather systems, for managing disasters, in planning, in development of regions, in every field. Here lies the huge applicability of remote sensing and GIS. So, it has the application in geology. He also said that remote sensing is very much related to machine learning. He very well explained the actual chronology of studying of any study, that is visualization, identification, targeting, detection, analysis, and planning. So if we follow this chronology, then any study will be very systematic. Then he showed various images and of East Kolkata wetlands and gave a very detailed, vivid description about the croplands and dynamicity of water bodies over there. He also discussed how remote sensing can be applied to show the LULC dynamics over there, and concluded how settlements in that region dictate on the land use and land cover over these regions. He very well explained the various applications of remote sensing in the various facets of the discipline of geography. He handled very logically all the questions in the interactive session and explained very clearly how remote sensing can be deployed in the research studies in geography. He also discussed the various job opportunities of young geographers who can pursue their post-graduation in remote sensing and GIS and get various outlets. But he also said that the scope of remote sensing and getting jobs in remote sensing is very less in Kolkata. We have to take a little pain to go outside West Bengal to get better jobs. So it's a very honor for us that he has delivered such a wonderful lecture. Now I thank all of you. For the vote of thanks, I, Munmun Nandi, as HOD of the Geography Department of HMM College for Women, I am extending my heartfelt gratitude to our principal madam. Without her support, organizing this web talk would not have been possible. I also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Monuma Banerjee, HOD of Earth Sciences and Remote Sensing of GIS University, for extending cooperation with us in organizing this popular workshop. I thank our distinguished speaker, Dr. Topographical, for his wonderful, innovative lecture, which is an inspiration for all our students who wish to pursue their studies and career in GIS and remote sensing. I also thank Dr. Otani Bhattacharya to enlighten our knowledge in this field. I thank the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Rupa Sen, and webinar subcommittee convener, Dr. Pradipta Mukherjee, for encouraging us to organize this grand web talk. I would like to thank all my faculty members of my department for helping me to organize this web talk, especially Mrs. Devi Bhattacharya, who has continually helped me in organizing this event. I sincerely thank Ms. Pooja Das, Faculty of Computer Science Department, and Ms. Atrey Bhattacharya for all the technical assistance in taking all the technical pains in making this web talk a grand success. I also thank all respected faculties and students for joining and participating in this web talk to make this successful. So with due respect and gratitude to everyone, I would like to conclude today's web lecture. Goodbye to everyone, and once again, thank you to all of you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you. It's a privilege for us. It's really
Thank
a privilege.
you. Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, madam. So we end our web talk today. Thanks to everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.